I think we've reached that point in time when we are there. Whether you're in survival, you're in prep, you're in everyday carry, we are there when it comes to pricing possibly being changed. I told myself that I've done these videos in the past and I talked about the things that you should think about picking up and the things that you should wait on. And I'm in the holding pattern of waiting now. Speaking of waiting, I can't wait to jump into this Sightseer Dad Bod coffee. Perfect for your boy because I'm rocking the Dad Bod. We're gonna do 18 grams of coffee through the espresso machine. Will pump out. Let's do a lungo. So let's just see where we go with that. So we've already poured the beans. We'll put those in here. But listen, I got an email. I've actually gotten several emails. I got one from Goat Tools, which makes the modular multi-tools. I've gotten some stuff from some other brands, which I don't know if they want me to disclose who they are, but they talked about openly Goat Tools is going to be closing down shop. Now, they haven't exactly explained why they're closing down shop. I don't know if it's because of the tariffs. I'm not sure if it's because of just how many hours they're spending on it, but the other companies that have hit your boy up 100% mentioned that they're going to be raising pricing because of the tariffs. Give me a second. Some of these brands are straight up everyday carry. Some of them are knives, bags. It's disappointing to know that, one email I got, the firm told me they're going to try to do one thing. They kind of let me know what their first approach is going to be, is that they're going to try to negotiate with the manufacturer because they get their stuff made in Cambodia, Taiwan, and China, a lot of stuff made in China. And they know what the tariffs could be for their items. So they want to see, hey, when the items hit the port of entry in America, they have to pay the tariff. They're trying to see, can they split that cost with the manufacturer, which would be the Chinese company. The Chinese company is probably going to say no, right? And the only incentive that a Chinese manufacturer would have to split the cost with a U.S. company for items that they made is that literally your items are like one of the only items that they're making in their facility. But you got to remember, China makes manufacturing cities. Like, they come up with manufacturing warehouses, and everyone that lives in those cities works at the manufacturing plants. They work upwards of 15, 14, 13 hours a day. If you're lucky to have the latter amount than the first amount. And so if you tell a manufacturer, let's imagine you're the person that's making a bag or something like that. If you tell a manufacturer, hey, I need to split the cost with you because of these tariffs, they're just going to laugh at you. They have other countries, bags, stuff that they're doing inside that facility where they don't necessarily need your product. Some companies might have that leverage. Imagine the Apples of the world, right? Apple may disclose to a company that's making their stuff in China, hey, we got to pay these tariffs. We're going to split those with you, or else we're moving all our stuff to Taiwan tomorrow. That might be more reasonable, even though there literally has just been an exemption for the tariffs when it comes to smartphones. So I don't even think they would have to do that. But the point being is, if you don't need the gear right now, this is a time when I literally can say, pump your brakes before you make the purchase. So we're at that point in time where, prices are going to start rising for bags, whether it's a bag from one of your favorite companies that's making stuff overseas. I mentioned this the other day in a live stream. I love Brown Buffalo. I love the fact that they were making most of their bags in California, but they could never keep bags in stock. The owner of the company, the master seamstress himself, went over to Cambodia. He went to the factory that he wants to use to manufacture his bags, and he made sure that they were using the same craftsmanship, the same type of just know-how that he used in his manufacturing facility in California. And so that's a good thing. That means that he's trying to support the community when it comes to EDC, to ensure that there are actual real numbers. But that's not going to be the case in every single scenario. I just don't know how many companies are going to be as transparent as some of these companies that sent me emails, and B, are going to be able to negotiate and possibly get cost downs with the manufacturers of these products. It's probably going to be very, very few. So us knowing that it's going to be relatively fewer companies that are going to have that type of leverage power, I think we are at the point where if you haven't made your purchase for something, you're not making that purchase unless you just Mr. Moneybags, and you don't necessarily care. You're not making it. Let's just see how this goes. Oh my God. That's if this is another area. I'm glad I already owned the crap. My Casio espresso machine comes from Spain. They have a 10% tariff right now, I think at a minimum. My niche grinder, I don't even know where the hell they make this at. I don't think it's 100%. I think it's made somewhere in Europe. Those type of tariffs we're thinking about. But listen, I had an issue literally last night with my Whirlpool top loader washing machine where the door latch was malfunctioning. It wouldn't latch properly. It was just making all these noises. I bought that washing machine in 2015. I've made several repairs myself to the control board. I've replaced a door latch. I've had to replace a seal. I had a lot of hard water running through the washing machine. So I had to kind of like go through and refurbish some of the pipes. The actuator, we doesn't have an actuator in there, but like the agitator, the lack thereof, I had to go through and do maintenance on that. I've done maintenance on this thing over the last 10 years. And I told my wife, I said, if this thing shits the bed again, which is what it basically did yesterday, I said, hey, let's just buy another washing machine. Cause I can remember I bought her when we were dating. This was a romantic date. I bought her a washer and dryer set from Nebraska Furniture Mart here in Texas. I spent like $1,100 and I secured the vagina. But the point being is I was like, hey, I bought you a set for $600 a piece years ago. I mean, I'm pretty sure we can find this same washing machine brand new, military discount at Lowe's. It's probably going to cost us like $600. No, my exact model is still $800+ at Home Depot and Lowe's to this day. If you are in the market for trying to improve your prep, your EDC, your SHTF gear, I don't know if it's beneficial for you to make purchases now. Some companies have a large amount of stuff already in the States. The Olights of the world, Nicors of the world, even some of like my larger watch holders, some of these larger power station companies, they rent facilities here in the States and they have a large stock because they do drop shipping. They have a large stock here, right? So if you order something from Blue Eddy or Dapson, or from Olight or from Savivi, a lot of that stuff is already located somewhere in a warehouse here. So we won't see those immediate prices jumping up. But some folks don't have the ability to hold on to those type of prices, or they're already starting to have to raise their prices. And I think those will start to be felt sooner than later, which really, really sucks. So I know you guys see me do videos talking about different items. If you don't need the stuff, man, I would just say avoid making purchases right now. If you can, maybe you go with American companies. You can get yourself something like from Nutsack, where they're pumping out stuff here in the States, and they're getting their items, making their items here in the States, and their prices literally. I've been working with Nutsack for over 2 years. Their pricing has gone up 5% in 2 years. So that's slower than inflation. That might be the type of companies that you may want to work with. That's my advice on that one. But measles is a thing, bro. Measles is a thing that I wanted to talk about mainly because the crazy thing is, I also want to talk about people disappearing throughout the United States and the possibility of people that are supposed to be doing self-deportation, choosing not to, and them actually popping up in your neighborhoods and stuff like that. But one thing that's kind of like not being talked about as much as I think it should be is this measles outbreak here in the United States. It's the worst one in decades. We've already easily passed the number of measles outbreaks in 2024 before the end of the first quarter in 2025. Over 700 cases, approaching 800 cases. And it's a lot of folks that are unvaccinated, especially unvaccinated children. So the question becomes like, why am I so concerned about this? Why do I talk about it all the time? Well, first, it's my channel. I like talking about stuff that affects me. I live in Texas. I live in Collin County, Texas. We just got our reported first or second case here in Collin County, Texas. For the most part, the cases have been in West Texas, and New Mexico, Arizona, a few other places where people took planes to get to those places like New Jersey. But like East Texas, Northeast Texas, not so much. But now I'm hearing about some of the first cases here in Collin County, and it does have me concerned. that can be applicable to any type of infectious disease like this. Is not necessarily just going to be quarantined to one area unless we lock up that entire area. That's why I bring it up to a nationwide or people that watch me around the world, because I want you to prepare yourself. And so I keep stressing, if you know there's an outbreak in your area, you may need to go to the point where you begin to do isolation. You're not letting your kids go to common indoor parks, or letting them go to the mall, or letting them go to a restaurant or whatever. But if it's not that way in your area, you still want to keep yourself the ability to check your own temperature, have N95 masks. You should have that stuff anyway from the shit we just went through 4 years ago, last year. But I think it's even more important to know, what are the symptoms and what does measles look like? Red rashes, red within the white part of your eyes are turning red, inability to breathe correctly, high temperatures. So it has like flu-like symptoms with the introduction of what looks like an insane rash. And the thing about measles is that it can diminish your immune system's ability to fight other diseases. So diseases that your immune system have already built up memory to, it can diminish your immune system to fight those diseases, where if they're reintroduced, you can die. That's something that I think about quite often, is what am I going to do to protect my family from that? So if you want to make sure you have a first aid kit for your family, I think that's really important as well. Okay, this is the last one I'm talking about, not because it's least, but I think it's getting so much headline news that people are kind of missing the point. Hundreds of thousands of people are losing their legal status in the United States. And when people lose status, people start doing weird shit. I'm not going to talk about the politics of whether people from Sudan, from Afghanistan, from Nicaragua, from El Salvador, from Venezuela should lose their status. That's out of my wheelhouse. What I am saying is as hundreds of thousands of people lose status, they're either going to self-deport, stay in an illegal status. And then if they decide to stay in an undocumented illegal status, they can do things that affect you and your family. People start breaking into houses. People start sucking up benefits that we don't know about. People get more desperate. Desperation, I think, is where you need to prepare your family for things that can come up that you don't even know about. This is where I talk about the amount of storage I think is important when it comes to your ammo. I'm all about for rimfire, for centerfire ammo, 1,050, right? I've done a whole video on that. I will link that up for you guys to check out. But being able to protect your own castle, being able to protect yourself on the streets, I think is important. Imagine that you have neighbors from Sudan, you have neighbors from Afghanistan. They thought they had a certain status. They lose that status. They can no longer legally work. What if they get desperate? They start doing this type of stuff. I think about that all the time. As for people disappearing off the streets and being yanked off the streets, what I think it could lead to is without rule of law in certain areas. If people feel like the government is disappearing residents, their neighbors or whatever, I fear that certain pockets of the country, more of the liberal areas, could fall into a without rule of law scenario. That's once again when I'm all a big supporter of the Second A. If you're not a big supporter of the Second A, that's okay. We're all allowed to have poor decision making. But I will say that you should still have the ability to defend yourself, whether that is going through some type of training, physical training, learning how to use your fist better, learning how to secure your property better. You don't necessarily need to own a gun, right, to support the Second A. But you should understand that there are more weapons in this country than humans. So that might behoove you to think about a scenario when there is not the rule of law in your area, and what are you going to do about that? These are the kind of three scenarios I think about, and how am I preparing for them all the time. We got to think about the tariffs. I'm no longer making those big purchases. The measles, keeping my kids together now that I know that the outbreak is close to home, thinking about limiting the places that my kids can go. And then finally, it's going to be the status of people that are undocumented and how that could affect my community as they start to make more and more decisions. Will they self-deport? I don't know. That seems kind of expensive, but will they start making irrational decisions? I'm not sure either. I think if I was in this country and my status was pulled and I had a family of 7 to take care of, just like I do now, if I had to kick in some doors, or if I had to work on a farm illegally, or if I would probably do it. And there's probably a lot of people who have the same mentality, where all my kids are American citizens. The wife is American citizen. I lose my status and I'm the only one that's not. You might do some shit to keep yourself together. But comment down below, are you preparing for any of these scenarios? Do you think the time is now Tariffs going up to 245% on China, 10% baseline on other countries, measles outbreak. The rule of law is just seems to be all over the place when it comes to what's going on in individual cities. I would love to know what your comments down below. If this is your first time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you a part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.